Let's get to streaming. Hey, my name's Eric. I'm making a game. That game is called The Godkiller. It's a puzzle solving game. If you like games like, say, Portal or The Witness, Cube. But I'm kind of picking my titles a little bit carefully there, because there's lots of puzzle games that are two-dimensional. This one is three-dimensional, and it really uses that third dimension. So it's very spatial, and it's not first-person point of view, which is a little more common with 3D puzzle games. It's top-down, and you're definitely using the full range of the layout. It's showing a lot of information to you clearly, and you gradually get better and better at understanding the game elements and how they work together. And yeah, so anyways, I like to start out by just practicing explaining what the game is, because I'll end up having to do it to a bunch of people at a bunch of different times. So it's good to be in practice. I've learned this from the past, but I will also just demo the game. I will demo recent progress made on the game. I'm going to shut my door because my wife is still sleeping. I don't want to wake her up. She is a night owl. Also, I'm like coming up blank. What did I do? What did I work on yesterday? What did I work on? There's one way for me to remember. I can do a get status. Okay. Oh, I committed everything though. So let's see. Get log. Okay, some performance improvements around sploders. I did something else though. What did I do? Alright, I'm going to go a little bit Inception here. I totally forgot what I did. Oh yeah, that's right, okay. So I made a pretty decent pause system, and it's not that easy to make a good pause. I'll show you. So I really had to think, if I'm going to pause the game, what are all the things that I have to pause? And it turns out there's more than the usual amount with this. I don't know what the usual amount is. It's more than the obvious things, I guess. So you can start out, you've got video to pause, you've got audio to pause. Those are the main two things. Pausing video is actually really easy in Unity. Yeah, it's pretty great how easy it is to pause the video. Yeah, so this level is it's running 160 something frames per second with optimizations that I made in the last week or so. Now it probably would have been more like 40 frames per second before I made those optimizations. Oh, I'm clicking the wrong thing. Let's turn off the stats for now. Anyways, getting a little distracted. Okay, so pausing. Yeah. Let's see if I can catch something right in the middle. There we go. So the camera's paused. All of the sound is paused. If there were dialogue that was playing, or subtitles that went along with it, all of those events would be paused. The level controller is paused, which is a thing which says what specific things in this level are going to happen, as opposed to general game elements and their behavior. Okay, so this is paused, and it's got everything stopped. So all my effects stopped, the camera movement stopped, every single thing. So as I was saying, video is easy. There's like a setting in Unity where you say, here's how fast I want time to move forward. And you can set it to 0. You can't set it to a negative number. I mean, you can't just like get a whole braid reverse thing where you can go backwards. You can't memento it. But anything between 0 and some other higher number will work. Now, if you set to go really fast, like you said, let's go 10 times as fast. That doesn't make your frame rate go up at the same time. So it would end up sampling little bits of things. You'd see like effects be kind of chopped up, but it would work. You could set the time to go 10 times as fast if you want. Wouldn't make your game feel better to play. Probably wouldn't, but you could do it. So if I escape, it finishes, it resumes. So it pauses everything. And the things that it doesn't really pause are like requests you put in the background. I do have some for these squares that pop up. There's a prediction algorithm that operates on 4 copies of the current level and issues the 4 different commands that you could choose, and it figures out things like, okay, if you walk west, you will land here. And if there's a complicated set of interactions like you'll land here, a guy will push you south, you'll fall over the edge of another cliff, and you'll die on some spikes down at the bottom, the prediction engine will go and see all that. And that runs in the background. So when I pause, I could pause that if I wanted to, but I didn't see any reason to. So it goes ahead and completes whatever it was up to in the background. The other stuff is mainly audio related. So if I start a song playing, and then also I'll start a sound effect. Okay, it paused everything. It paused the song, it paused the sound effect that was playing, and the video stuff that I already mentioned. When I let go, it resumes it all. So I wrote explicit code to pause or resume all the audio. Okay, turn that off. That'll make me crazy. And I did it in a nice maintainable way. I just said every module that wants to participate in pausing can register itself, and it has an interface for the pause and unpause action to call. So right now I've got like maybe 4 different modules that pause and unpause. Speech, sound effects, music, and then the level controller, which could have some timing stuff involved inside of it. And there's also like a way where I'm in demo mode, not code mode. I'll just say that the unpausing is handled in a general way too, where if there's any variables that had timing information, they're updated based on the amount of time that the game was paused. Okay, so that was mainly what I did yesterday. There were a few other bug fixes and refinements, a few level fixes. I got another release out. That release had 5 new levels in it, and some different updates that I've already demoed. Things like when you push blocks, now there is a little temporary lightning bolt that comes over to the nearest block pad. That tells you if I destroy this block, it'll go over here to this block pad. So I've got that little bit of visual feedback, a little more information for the player to figure out what's going on. And on some levels, it's ambiguous where the block is going to go when you push it. So that's helpful in making that clear. Other improvements in the last week, the clouds, they now use a soft particle thing, and then some performance improvements. The biggest one was I changed this to use deferred shading instead of forward rendering, which causes a doubling, sometimes a tripling of the frame rate. And I am now, I used to look at this number and say, okay, am I above 40? Okay, good, we're fine if I'm above 40. Now I've raised my standards a bit and I say, okay, are we above 100? Okay, if we're above 100, I've got nothing to worry about. So there is like one place in one of the levels where it's still hitting around 40, and I'll do some optimizations there. So yeah, and it's weird too because this number that you target. So there was a period of time, like in the 80s, where it was just sort of commonly thought there was no point ever going above 30 frames per second. And I don't know that that was a scientific point of view. I think that might have been a marketing point of view. It might have been based upon like animation studios and, you know, how many frames they were going to do. It might have been based on NTSC television standards. But it used to be you'd think of like 30 frames per second. Wow, that's plenty. Don't go beyond that. TV animation would do 24 frames per second to save a little bit of money. And I think like Disney Studios would do 30 frames per second. And then we had, you know, TVs that would do 60 frames per second, or monitors that would do 60 frames per second. And you could see a difference. You could tell the difference. There was some Peter Jackson movies that used that higher frame rate, and you look at it, and some people, they didn't even like it. It looked a little bit weird. It looked a little like we were watching video, like cheap video, instead of nice cinematic. Okay, anyways, so we did get to a point where, you know, 60 frames per second, that seems to be like something more reasonable to approach. So then you have to ask, why are developers aiming for 100 frames per second or 200 frames per second? I think it's because you need a little bit of clearance, because here and there something's going to happen in your game and you will dip a little bit. Because it's really hard to run a game at a constant frame rate all the time. So you know that if you're above 100, you don't have to be as vigilant for the frame rate dropping down to 60, because that's a lot of clearance. It's going to look smooth if it drops to 60 frames per second. The human eye really can't detect beyond a certain amount of updates any difference. So I think I'm going to go along with that too, and I'm going to try to keep my frame rate above 100 on this machine. That also means the other thing about clearance is, you know, the development machine that you run on will typically be better spec'd than the end or the minimum requirements for running the game, or even the typical requirements for running the game of players. So to aim a little bit high means that somebody with a computer that's not as good as the one that you're developing on has got a chance of enjoying the game to the same extent that you do when you play it. Or enjoy is maybe the wrong word. They'll on video quality, they'll achieve a similar kind of video quality on their machine as what you see on your dev machine. So yeah, I think I'm good in the performance zone now. There are a few things here and there to tweak, but I do not anticipate there's going to be a giant optimization pass on this whole thing, which is really nice to know. It's very calming, actually. Because the idea that I'd have to go and rework major parts of the engine, it's not something that feels good. I've tried to build it right the first time as much as I can. And there are some things that I know are not optimal. I don't necessarily want to go back and update them. So At the beginning of my development, I did not know that it was a sin to allocate objects on every frame, or to continue allocating objects many times after the level load. So what I learned was, and a little bit late, was that's not how you want to do it. You want to allocate at the beginning when your level loads, or maybe when your game loads, and reuse instances of classes and other data, and put them in pools. And then by the time I learned that lesson, I had half of the game engine done, and including a very maintainable set of events that go out to they go from the logical part of the game to the presentation part. Those are my glue between those two parts. To rework that is possible, but that's maybe a week, something like that, to rework all that, and I don't want to take it if I don't have to. So if I can just avoid some of these optimization tasks and just keep going, I'll get the release out sooner. So it's been good news that my frame rate has gone up so high at this point. All right. On simpler levels, by the way, the frame rate, it'll go up to past 500. So there's nothing here that's too taxing, I guess. Well, there's not much that's taxing. Okay. So I'm going to go say hi to my wife. She just woke up. I'm going to tell her good morning and all that. And then I'm going to come back up and I'm going to get busy working on the settings screen, which is something that I think the game could use at this point. All right, so just gonna set the holy algorithm up here. If you happen to chat something while this is up, I'll see it when I get back. Bam. just clear out the chat session. All right. So settings. Let's go to a level that doesn't take as long to start up, one with less geometry and scripts in it. By the way, they all load really fast in the player, which I just love. It takes a lot longer to load a level from inside of the Unity IDE. All right. These guys over here, I'm just going to get rid of those. Okay, so blocks. No, letter gates. Letter gate. Letter bridge. I'm noticing something here though. Are these? Okay, good. I thought for a moment that my scene organization code had split them all out into pieces, and that is really annoying, and I don't like it when that happens. Okay, letter bridge. All right, I'm gonna go look. I shouldn't watch the kettle boil, but I just posted a poll on the Caraville forum. I want to see people are responding to it. Okay, cool. So here's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to decide if I want to go to the trouble to make a profile selection interface. What I would prefer to do, if this poll points me in the right direction, what I would prefer to do, oh, my work screen is not updating. Did I demo anything over the last X minutes? Hold on. I don't think I did. I think that was like a terrible demo. Okay. All right. I'll do a real quick demo in a moment of the pause system again. But anyways, here's the poll I put out there. I wanted to know if people are really using the profile selection tool inside of another game I wrote called Drawd, because it would be nice if I didn't have to make it. It'd be nice in 2 ways, 3 ways actually. First, it's extra work to code it. Second, it's more UI complexity for the player to have to think about and what am I doing? That kind of thing. Lastly, when I later on port to console, it will have its own profile changing system. And I like the idea of having the same kind of framework where the operating system points you to what is the current player, and then you go look up the information for the current player. So if possible, I want the OS or the console hardware, it's still the OS, to perform all the stuff for choosing a different user or profile, and then just pass in to me the name of the profile or the name of the current user, and then I'll go and look up the appropriate information based on that. So I play on Xbox, that's how it works. There's already controls for me to go and change the current profile, and then I come back into the game, and all the stuff is there for that particular player. But if there's a bunch of people that want to play on the same computer and use different profiles and switch around between them, and it's too much of a pain for them to set up extra OS level accounts, that's okay. I'll put in the profile changer. I think this is not a bad poll. The worst thing about it is it selects for people that are actually on the Caravel forum instead of maybe the larger player base, which would include players that are less dedicated to the game, more casual or lighter players. But it is the same type of person that would play this game Drod who would also play the Godkiller. So we'll see how this poll does. Alright, now I'm watching a kettle boil. Leave that alone. What I know I'll definitely need, let's see, is a certain collection of settings that correspond to the current account. I'll need something that gets the logged in user from the OS environment. Okay, so that's just any old level, a junk level. Okay, right now I've got the settings button disabled because there's nothing for it to go to. So then once you get there, there'll be the normal audio settings, a few other settings related to subtitles. I'm considering something that turns predictions on or off inside of settings. I'm not a person who's a lover of settings, I'll tell you that. I feel sometimes we overdo settings because we, the developer or the designer, are not willing to figure out one choice that works well for most of the people, 90% of the people. So if your settings are hitting that long tail of preferences, I don't think that's necessarily a good idea. You make the settings screen more complicated, it's harder to people to figure out what the heck they're doing inside of it. I mean, you want the logical extreme, and actually this is a place where it does make sense to have a huge amount of settings. Go to the preferences in Writer, and it's hierarchical. I mean, there are probably a few thousand settings inside of this. And then you just have to find your way to them. Inside of just like one of these categories, there's also further tabs here, so the hierarchy goes down. Let's see, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, between 5 and 10 levels, depending on which option you're fucking around with, right? So that's not the mode you're in when you're playing a game, though. When you're playing a game, you don't want to work on settings. You don't. I don't think you do. Now, the other problem with settings is they create multiple test paths. So in order for you to know that this setting is going to work well in a lot of different situations, you have to do more testing. I don't like that either. So if there's a bug that only shows up when I've turned off predictions and I've set the level of detail to high, you know, that's a lot worse for me to track down or to catch it before it goes out in terms of effort. The code gets more complex. It introduces more bugs just by virtue of there being more code. So unless there's a clear need for most of the users, a clear want, let's go to want for that setting, let it be. You don't have to have that setting. Other settings I would like to just not even worry about are the keys, the keyboard. I've only got 4 keys and I've got a shift. I might double up on WASD because some people like to do WASD, but instead of making a setting like where you say, I want to switch to WASD, just accept either one. You press the arrow key or you press A to go left, fine. If either one of those pressed, we'll count it as going left. I'm not a fan of settings. And let me see if I can show you an example of some past settings I've done, which are actually not that good in my opinion. Drawn settings screen. Well, I do not see a screenshot of them. Yeah, okay. Oh, simplicity, minimalism. These are things I like. See, now we got 5 people. They're just alone in their house playing the game. And so far, everybody they got their own computer, or they're just the only person playing Drod, which is the same thing as having their own computer installation. So the one that the 2 bottom ones, if we get more there, then I'm more interested in creating like a separate profile system. Okay, so what settings will we have? Let me close a few things I don't want to just accidentally pop up on the screen. Okay, I was looking at my first attempt at figuring out what should go on the settings screen. Okay, there's the stuff about your save game that's not going to go on the settings screen. Okay. Your speech audio, whether it's on or off, volume, number between 0 and 1, sound effects, same thing. Music, same thing. Subtitles, it's going to default to turning them off after I get voiceover inside of the game. I think there will be more, but not a lot more. I'm hoping. I really am hoping. I might be able to get away without tabs, for example. You know, you go to settings or hierarchy. You go to settings and then all the settings are there. That would be nice. It'd also be nice to not have a type-in interface, or like you have to type in letters and that gives you like your player name or something like that. Okay. I think that's it for now. Yeah. There is another thing you can do if you set LOD on a whole bunch of objects is like if somebody's running on a slower computer, you can use the LOD bias to be set explicitly, and it will make lower poly versions of objects. It is kind of nice that you can do it. You can do 2 things at once with LOD. One is you can make it so that when things are far away, they will show the lower poly versions. And then the second thing you can do with that without adding much extra code is you can have a lower quality setting where it automatically adjusts to more readily use those low poly versions of objects. So yeah, these things are possible, but I don't want to add more than I need to begin with. So let's start with a setting screen that has enough to capture all these things. And to save them and to retrieve them. Okay. so inside of main, is it main that had it? Or booter? Maybe it was booter. Yeah, okay, I was just putting everything in booter that might have to pop up, which is not a bad way to do it. I can follow that pattern. It should be pretty easy. So I'm thinking about my design here. I think all on one screen, and if later on it doesn't fit, I'll make a scrolling interface, maybe. Or I can add a hierarchy to it if it doesn't fit later. So the meta menu currently just shows this, but I could have it go settings, and then I could, you know, if later on I need video and audio settings or something that kind of buckets them, I could go to a sub menu underneath. It has the same menus, and you say graphics, and then it goes to graphics settings. You say audio, it goes to audio settings, that kind of thing. But to start with, I think I can just get it all on one screen. I don't think I have much. I think also I'm going to duplicate meta menu, because it seems to have some of the same elements that I want already. So let's duplicate meta menu. We'll call it, unpack it, rename, settings. Okay, I'll be right back. Hold on. All right. Curious if I just look at this in the prefab, am I able to okay, that's not a bad way to do this either. Okay, that's not bad. So the reason I wanted to check that is because I always forget to update, discard the changes. I always forget to update this prefab And also there's like a lot of times you make one more change and then it's not reflected in all the levels unless you update the prefab again. So what I want to do is put settings inside of its own prefab, and I'll just edit it directly, and it will be part of Booter, and everything will update, and it'll be a lot simpler to keep track of. Looks like I messed up on doing that with tutorial text, but I can fix that too. So let's see, project, prefabs, meta, scene organization, children. Let's put tutorial in there. All right. Unpack Booter. Okay, so let me take tutorial text, put it in here. Settings, same thing. Okay. And let's go up one to Booter and update that prefab. All right, replace it. All right, cool. So that should do that. And let's open up settings. Just edit it directly. I'm not going to add a save cancel thing. That's kind of old school. Oops. Now you want to take this whole thing and move it, but not in the way that I was doing. It should be anchored. I want to anchor it, I think. Let's do bottom right hand, I think. So then after I have it anchored to bottom right, when I move this around, the X and Y positions are going to reflect a margin. Okay, feels like the width is a little too much, so let's do 140. I want to give it some space because there'll be localized text at some point, and you know, if the German word for going back is like Gartenhorn, then fill this all up. Sorry, that was racist German. Okay, these guys, I think they just go away. Restore, settings, exit, go away. Okay. I could use iconography here too. Okay, so what other... This is going to be the first time I've used any other UI widgets besides button and text. So let's see what we got. Well, there's the scroll view if I want to get in early. Just be future proof, I suppose, but I don't think I do. So let's just throw some down, just so I can see what they look like. And let's also add a slider. I want to see what that looks like. Okay. So there's this question, do I want for my audio to have a toggle and the slider? So here's the reasoning to have both. If you just want to turn something off, it's a little bit easier to do the toggle than it is to, kind of slide it left. If you want to temporarily turn off some audio, but come back to it later and retain your previous volume settings that you thought were pretty good, a toggle is good for that as well. But I think even though I'm going to store it with a Boolean saying it's on or off, I think I'm going to go for the simpler setting and just have a slider, single slider. If you want sound effects turned off, slide it all the way to the left. Okay. So I'll use this for subtitles. Can't wait till I've got all my voiceover in, because one of my goals is to have the default not show subtitles. I think subtitles ruin game audio, or not game audio, but character dialogue. It's also a thing too, like if somebody wants to play this game for the puzzles and is offended by the story, and that will happen before we're done, they can turn off the subtitles, they can turn off the speech dialogue, and I'll be on the lookout for that combination. I can display the minimal information that can help the player get through the level. But for the most part, the dialogue never gives you any clues. There's a few examples where it does. Yeah, okay. I'm overthinking it. For right now, we don't need anything like that. Okay, so we're going to need speech, audio, sound effects, music, subtitles enabled or not. That's it. Yeah, I don't need to clear level progress. I don't need anything like that. Okay, what about the size of this thing? It could be a lot larger. Also, I think like people are really pretty savvy at this point that you have a slider and it says sound effects next to it. You don't have to say it's the volume control. It's like really clear. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. I could find out later that I'm wrong about that. Is there a way to have this grow to fit the spacing? Is this best fit? Yeah, that's the one. Okay. Oh, there is a thing that if I do a bunch of these, like 3 of them, sound effects, music, dialogue, they will all have different font sizes. What's aligned by geometry? No. Okay, here's how you do it. You say best fit, and you set the minimum size kind of high, or the maximum size. Maximum size, yeah, set the maximum size pretty high. Okay, let's set it at 40, and then size this so that the font goes to the max, basically. So if I say, let's go 200, that might be maxing now with the font size. Let's set 30. Does this go down? No. Okay. No? Oh, no, gotta go the other way. 25. Okay. Okay, so probably pretty close to 30. 27. 27. That's something a little bit smaller than that right now. Okay, so we go. Yeah, okay, so it's at 26 right now. That is the one that's the lengthiest. I'll set it to 30 and I'll give it a little more room to fill up the screen. Let's go 240. This guy, I'll size it so it goes way off over there. 360, a little bit higher. Huh. Boy, there's an aspect ratio you want to get right on this. Okay. That's where it was. Does the width play into the aspect ratio? It kind of looks like just the height does. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to try to make it look super snazzy. but let's see if I do 300. Does that change the aspect? Maybe a little. Let's see, 100. Nope, it's round. So only the height seems to affect the aspect ratio. 300. Okay, so it's gonna look a little plain. I don't mind. Okay, so let's call this sound effects slider. Getting it in a specific point in the hierarchy is kind of a pain. Okay. Let's rename this to label. I don't think it matters if I put the label under here. That might be a nicer way to do it. Let me just try that. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to duplicate this for all three things. Music slider. Drag this down. Feels like I want some kind of I totally forgot what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, some kind of maybe controller class for this stuff that ties into the. But instead of writing one, I should see what's built in already. It's probably just some simple callbacks. Oh, that was kind of what I wanted to do already. Yeah. I was going to use the sizing stuff over here, but I guess I found some thing that would size it for me. Okay, cool. So I'm thinking about how these should change if the screen aspect ratio changes, and I think what I want is for these guys to be centered vertically and anchored left right. I think that's what I want. This one should also do the same best fit thing and go from 10 to, what was the other one, 30? Yeah. Okay, left up, okay. So the other way would just be keep it centered. And then in some cases there'd be more space off to the left and right. I suppose somebody might try to play this on like a NTSC monitor, or they might size the window in some weird way. I do not know what I did to get everything to skew like this. There we go. It doesn't look bad. Looks like there's just plenty of room to add more stuff here too. Like I don't even have to start worrying about size or breaking it up into categories until I've got maybe 3 times as many settings to put on the screen. Pull this up a bit. Whoops. Damn. Okay. Just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, okay, don't over-engineer. I was thinking of some other stuff to put in. Don't over-engineer, just get it working. You can always come back, add to it. Keep it simple. So, I get excited about making something new, and it starts me thinking of like cool things I could put in it, but this is, I don't want to put a lot of effort into the settings screen. And the needs of the settings screen, I'm pretty confident they have not been realized yet. So I'm going to have a whole bunch of playtesters go through, and I'm going to find out one person is like, this crashes on my card, and then there's some checkbox they have to do, like disable shadow rendering, you know, something like that. Or there's going to be people that say, I hate playing the game in this way. I hate playing the game with red particles around me when I die, because it triggers me, it looks like blood, freaks me out, I don't like it. And so if that's enough people feel that way, then, you know, a setting will go in that says, you know, disable bloody particles. Perhaps. I'm not completely malleable, but anyways, the point is, I do not know what all the settings are going to be at this point. It's going to take, you know, like at least 10 people running through the game and testing it and giving me their feedback before I got some idea what settings should be there. I might go to a publisher, and then they put in a set of requests because they have knowledge of their customers and what's important to them. I might have integrations with other platforms such as Steam that imply other settings that need to be there, you know, Steam key stuff, things like that. The e-commerce system might need like a key that you put in when you unlock it, and things like that, you know, DLC screens, stuff like that. You just can't know what all the settings are going to be in advance. So let's keep it simple for now. Put all the ambitions away and wait for an actual need to make it more complex than it is now. All right. Let me see if I can just get this thing to be visible. That would be my first goal. Okay, we go to the booter. I got the settings screen here, and I can just, bam, turn that off. Then the meta menu. Every once in a while, it's good to just close tabs. Let's go check my pot, see how it's doing. So far, it's all up here. Cool. Before I just launch on that, let me refill my coffee cup, and I'll be right back. Alright, beta menu. So in order for that to work, I'm going to need the meta menu to enable. Yes, I have it. Enable the settings button. Now, I'm trying to figure out what's the thing that makes it properly enabled. I know I disabled it at one point. I'm trying to figure out how I did it. Interactable. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so now it should be possible to do something here. Let me see how I did. Okay, modal manager. Let's follow this pattern. Okay, modal manager. And there'll be something else. Show. Let's just go ahead and type a name of something I don't actually have yet. Show settings. Screen. Show settings. Okay, and then I'll put a. Let's see. hide. Okay. Up here, I think it's just grabbing everything. So it's going to be modal dialog. I think let's call settings a modal dialog. Settings dialog. Or just me and my hobgoblins of consistency. It's not really a dialogue. That's the thing. I think it gets its own class. There. I fucking hate politics. I fucking hate how everyone's talking to each other these days. It's fucking up my family. All right, settings. There's a whole bunch of settings classes here. None of them are mine. that's going to confuse. I'm calling one setting screen because I don't want to be always like popping up in comparison with other things, so I put setting screen. Okay, what did I do for meta menu? Did I derive it from anything? No, just mono behavior. Yeah, okay, cool. Settings screen, mono behavior, this will be Godkiller. I gotta take a little break. Sorry. Let's see. Alright, so here's what's up. Got some personal stuff. It's making me a little bit sad. I don't want to be on the stream while I'm sad. So I'm going to keep working, but I'm going to stop the stream. I was trying to kind of like regain my composure, but it has to do with political arguments and that went ugly with people in my family and people I love, and kind of getting back to a place where nobody's feelings are hurt and people trust each other and don't see them as an enemy or something. You know, it's gotten that bad with some people in my family, and yeah, it's just bothering me too much to just kind of keep on going and be like cheerful and or just normal temperament as I work on game stuff. So I'm gonna stop the stream, and I'm sure I'll figure out that situation, but I just don't want to drag it all onto the stream. Just little things like what my face looks like. I'll look like I'm kind of sad at some points, and just I don't know. All right, stopping the stream. Talk to you later.